so this is my labor and delivery video. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about labor and how delivery went, and after delivery, my stay at the hospital. So Friday night, let's see, it was oh, okay, we just farted on Mom. We went in on Friday the 10th. I'll let him finish his thing and then we'll change it. We went in Friday the 10th around 8 o'clock. Well, maybe I guess I should start with saying I lost my mucus plug with my bloody show. Definitely my mucus plug around 7 p.m. That really stinks. On Friday. And then about, I want to say maybe an hour or so later, around 8:15, 8:30, I started having contractions about 3 to 5 minutes apart. Most painful thing ever. I thought Braxton Hicks were terrible. I had no idea what I was talking about. So I started having contractions 3 to 5 minutes apart. At my last appointment, I was 3 centimeters. And so we get to the hospital, we have our bags packed. Well, I guess maybe I'm like jumping all around. I'm so sorry. I told my fiance, I'm like, okay, I think the baby's coming. Like, we really need to go. You need to call off work. So he calls off work and he's like, hi, my name is Corey, blah blah blah. My manager's so and so, and he said, I think we're about to have our baby, so I'm not gonna be in tonight. And he was trying to get dressed and he was all shaky and freaking out. And I'm sitting on the bed having contractions, so I'm really not freaking out quite yet. I'm just in pain. So we get in the car and we drive there, and I'm having really bad contractions back to back. We're called his parents. My mom, my dad, of course, lives with us, so he already knew we were going. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, just let us know, how it goes, and blah, blah, blah. So we get there, and I'm trying to, walk up the hall, and we had to keep stopping because they were just so painful. I mean, they just felt like they were back to back to back. And we finally get up to the 3rd floor, and we go to check in, and the woman just stares at me. And I'm in the middle of having a contraction, and she just looks at me like I should know what I'm supposed to say or something. Like, I've never gone into labor before. I've never done this before. Tell me what I'm supposed to say. She goes, what's your name? I told her my name, told her my OB's name, and she asked me what was going on, and I told her I'm having contractions 3 to 5 minutes apart, which they told me to come to the hospital if I'm having contractions like that. And so she put us back in the triage room, hooked me up to a bunch of monitors, and they checked to see how dilated I was. I was still at a 3. So they had me walk around the halls for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. So I got to walk around the whole labor unit. We got to see the level 3 nursery. So while I was walking through the halls having contractions, I kept stopping just to look at all the babies because they were just so cute. And just thinking about, how close I could possibly be to, finally meeting my son. It was really exciting. So I walked around the halls for about an hour. We get back to the room, and they take forever, what it feels like. I'm sweating my tail off. My hospital gown that they gave me is like drenched in sweat. I'm sweating really bad. I'm trying to drink water, trying to stay calm, trying to breathe. Corey's like, you need to breathe. Like, you're gonna stop breathing. And I'm just like, you forget how to breathe when you're having contractions that bad. So she checks me and she goes, well, you're still at 3 centimeters. I'm going to call your OB, see what she says, and then we'll go from there. Well, they actually ended up sending me home, and I was very, very upset about that. We weren't even home for 45 minutes, and they picked up tremendously. And before I had left, they said, if they get more intense or closer together, just go ahead and come back. So I'm like, okay. So we get home, and I'm having contractions a minute to 2 minutes apart, and the contractions were lasting almost a minute and a half. So I'm sure you can imagine how frustrated I was that they sent me home. So We go back to the hospital, and I can't even make it from the car to the wheelchair where the valet was, which there's a little roundabout, and like maybe 15, 10 steps away are wheelchairs. So I grabbed a couple of bags and my drink and my water and whatever, and I get to the wheelchair, and I'm just in so much pain. And Corey like speeds off to go park and runs back, and we go up the elevators back up to the third floor, and they kind of look at me like, "Oh, you're back already?" I said, "I need to be seen now." They sent me home, and I called my OB while I was at home, and I told her that I'm gonna come back and they better not send me home. So they take me back to the triage again and check me, and I'm at 5 centimeters in less than an hour. I had gone from 3 centimeters to 5 centimeters. So they end up giving me the antibiotics and a bag of fluid, because I did test positive for strep, or group B, strep B, whatever it's called. So she's hooking me up to this thing, and she's giving me my IV, and she's taken a little while to get my IV in, and I'm like, okay, this is like really painful. And so she gets my IV in, and I'm like, how soon until I can get the epidural? And she goes, well, you'll get it soon. We just have to get this bag of fluid in you. And I look at this bag of fluid, and I'm like, this is going to take forever. So she gets the IV in, they start doing the fluids, and she leaves the room, and Corey goes, man, you just bled everywhere, didn't you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look over, and there's just blood all over the side of the bed and on the floor from where she tried to put my IV in, and I guess she messed up. So one of the nurses came back and got me, and the long walk, which was like 3 rooms and around a corner away, was the room I was going to deliver in. It took me a long time to get there. We stopped like 4 times just because my contractions were hitting so fast. So we get back to the room. She gets me in the bed, and she goes, well, the anesthesiologist will be a little bit because he's currently helping out with the cesarean. So I'm like, okay, we'll try to get through this. So I go to the bathroom, and I get back on the bed, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking at Corey, and he's, trying to tell me to breathe, and I'm just like, I'm breathing, and it was just completely crazy. So the anesthesiologist finally gets back to my room, and my mom asked me, if I wanted to come, since they did admit me and they were getting ready to give me my epidural. So, things were picking up. Around this time, it was probably around 5:30, almost 6 o'clock in the morning. And he gets in there, and he tells me, you're going to feel like a bee sting in the back of your back, just because that's how they numb you before they actually put the epidural in. So they had me hunched over with my huge belly, and he gives me the shot, which, trust me, it feels nothing like a bee sting. It maybe just burns for like a second, maybe not even a second. It wasn't even that bad. He puts all this tape and stuff on my back, puts the tube in, whatever, blah, 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 and gives me the first dose. Within 10 minutes, my contractions were just feeling more of like Braxton Hicks, I guess you could say. And you just felt a lot of pressure in your stomach area and in your uterus, obviously. So my mom finally gets there, and, she missed me getting my epidural. But, that's alright. She was there for the rest, but, they're like, try to get a nap in while you can. We're gonna get, set up. So they had me, getting my antibiotics for the Group B, and they came in to check me around 7 in the morning, and I was at 8 almost. Well, I think it was like, I was at 8. And they're like, okay, well, things are going good. Your contractions look amazing. And the funny part was that, I didn't get induced at all. I didn't have Pitocin, and I was just dilating really fast. So they're like, okay, well, it looks like we're going to have a baby today. I'm like, oh my god, this is like all really happening, but it still, you know, hadn't completely set in that, oh my god, I'm about to deliver my son. And so they came in, checked me. I was 8 centimeters, and they go, okay, well, you know, if you at least get to a 9, 9.5, we're gonna go ahead and break your water at 10 in the morning. So I'm like, okay. And they said, well, until then, you know, go ahead, try to get some rest. You know, it's gonna be a long day, especially, you know, for first-time moms. It usually takes them 3 to 4 hours for the pushing phase. So I'm like, okay. I ended up not getting any sleep because nurses were in and out of my room the whole entire time. And, you know, I was talking to my mom. We were just messing around, telling jokes and whatever. I felt so much better once I had the epidural. So 10 a.m. came around, and my OB came in, and she says, okay, we're going to check you. And I was at 9.5 centimeters, almost 10. And she had broke my water. Which was very interesting. It didn't hurt. A lot of people ask me, you know, if it hurt. No, it didn't really hurt at all, or didn't hurt at all. I just kind of felt like something brushing against something, you know, obviously inside of me. And you know, she broke it, and they had me sit up. That way, you know, he could start moving down, which he was moving down pretty fast. I started to feel, you know, a lot of pressure near my butt. Well, in my butt, basically, I was feeling a lot of pressure because he moves, well, you know, the canals and whatever, so close together. And I just started feeling so much pressure. And it was almost to the point where, you know, I wanted a second epidural or something. You know, I want to double the dosage. So the epidural does take a lot of the pain away, but it doesn't take the pressure away. And one of the nurses was like, pressure is your friend. I'm like, okay. Well, the more pressure I started feeling, you know, my contractions were getting like what it felt like 5-minute contractions. So they broke my water, and I sat there gushing out amniotic fluid for a good while, maybe like an hour and a half. So they came back in around, I would say, 11:30, you know, to check me. And they said, oh, awesome, you know, you're out of 10. Or you're at 10 centimeters, you know, I'm going to go get your doctor, and, you know, we're going to have this baby. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like really excited, really scared. Just so many emotions running through my head. And she comes in, and, you know, they lay me back. And she goes, we're going to do a practice push. I'm like, okay. So she tells me, take a deep breath in, let it out, and then take another deep breath in, and then push. So I'm like, okay. And then she goes, I just was trying to walk you through it, so let's try this again. So I'm like, whoops. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like so excited and so scared. And she goes, oh no, it's completely understandable. She said, well, let's try one. So, you know, I breathed in and started pushing, and they counted what it felt like was so slow. They're like 1, 2, 3, and up until 10. And she goes, wow, okay. She said, well, try not to push. I know you'll get this unbearable urge to push, so don't push. And I'm like, okay, well, you just showed me how to push. Like, I feel like I need to start pushing. And she goes, really, if you start pushing, you're going to have this baby out before I come back. So she goes out of the room to check on another patient of hers, why all the other nurses were getting, you know, everything set up. So I started pushing around 12:10 or 12:15, 12:30, somewhere in that time frame, 12 to 12:30 I started pushing. And, you know, it wasn't actually that bad. You know, I was cracking jokes the whole time. It was really, really interesting. But towards the end, when I did get, well, let's get before that. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of everything. Yeah. You're so squiggly. What was I gonna say? She goes, everything looks good, you know, if his heart rate, you know, stays the way it is, we're just gonna go have you keep pushing. So she asked me if I wanted to put the mirror down, and she goes, oh my god, he has a full head of hair. And I'm like, oh, maybe she's just saying that, maybe he just has a little bit of hair. And I could see the reflection of down there in her glasses. I'm like, oh my god, he really like has a full head of hair. And if you can't tell, he has a full head of hair, especially for being a newborn. That's a lot of hair. She goes, do you want the mirror down? I'm like, no, 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 you know, like if I do it, I'm gonna freak out. Which I did actually, I forgot to mention, I did have an anxiety attack the second time I came back, just because I was so frustrated. I was in a lot of pain. But anyways, so we ended up putting the mirror down, and Corey keeps, you know, looking down there, and I'm like, well, I'm just like thinking, what's going on? He was quiet the whole entire time. He was rubbing my back, you know, trying to keep me calm. Bless his heart. But obviously, you know, I was in a lot of pain, so yeah. So I started crowning, and I actually had them end up putting the mirror down. I'm like, oh my god, he does have a lot of hair. And it was actually kind of a motivator to, you know, see the top of his head, and I'm like, wow, you know, he's really coming, you know, if an hour or two, you know, might pass, and, you know, I'm going to have him, you know, in my arms. So we're almost done crowning, and she just goes, all I could see in the mirror was just her reaching for the scissors. And I'm like, I was just thinking in my mind, why is she reaching for the scissors? And I didn't hear what she had said, just because I'm freaking out because she's grabbing scissors. She goes, I have to cut you. And I'm like, no, 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 wait. Like, all I wanted was the mirror to go back up before she cut me, because I know if she cut me and I saw it, I was gonna flip bricks. I was gonna have an anxiety attack or pass out or something. So she cuts me, and I just start screaming because they cut off my epidural like 10 or 15 minutes into when I was delivering, and I just started screaming. I felt her cut me, which I did end up having a second degree episiotomy and a first degree tear. But I felt her cut into me, and I was just screaming. And she said, you need to push now. And I'm like, okay. So I pushed, and maybe like 3 pushes later, I felt her take his shoulders and just pull him out, and I just felt everything just gush out. And she laid him on my chest, and he cried for about a few seconds, and then, you know, I just started rubbing his cheek, and I was like, it's okay, you know, don't cry. And he actually smiled at me like a few seconds into him being born, and I lost it. And Corey just started crying, and my mom like gave him a huge hug, and everyone was, you know, so shocked, you know, that here he is, you know, he's finally here. And sorry, it's kind of emotional. But she laid him on my chest, and, you know, they didn't wipe him off yet, but I waited for 3 minutes for the placenta to stop pulsating. That way he could get extra blood volume and a lot more nutrients for him, so he could be healthier. Corey cut the umbilical cord, which we have on video, which I can put at the end of the video. I'll kind of put in a slideshow at the end, so you guys can see some pictures. He cut the umbilical cord, and it was just really funny. He goes, wow, you know, that's really, you know, mushy, gushy, and kind of like it was almost like cutting through like a mushy Twizzler or something, you know. It looked really odd. And so he cut the umbilical cord, and we did skin to skin, and the nurse goes, do you want to try breastfeeding, you know, in a few seconds? I'm like, yeah, of course, you know, I'd love to. So during, you know, all this stuff is happening, my midwife started stitching me up, and, well, before she had started stitching me up, she was, you know, pushing down on my belly to, you know, help get everything out, start helping my uterus, you know, shrink back down a little bit. And for some reason, I wouldn't stop bleeding, you know, from the inside. And she did that for about 20 minutes, you know, pushing down, and they gave me like 3 different shots to try to help, you know, slow my blood flow down just a little bit so they could get the bleeding under control. And it finally, you know, slowed down a little bit to enough where she could start stitching me up, and I could feel her stitching me up, which wasn't very pleasant at all either. But, you know, they finished stitching me up, and then she goes, okay, you know, congratulations, and, you know, I was like, thank you so much, and I was like, okay, you know, since we're, you know, pretty close now, did I have a bowel movement during birth, or during labor, or while I was pushing? And she goes, yeah, but, you know, it happens all the time. I'm like, okay. I was like, I'm really sorry about that. She goes, don't be sorry, you can't control it anyways, which I had no idea that was going on down there. All I could feel was him. So, you know, she finishes cleaning me up a little bit, has me put on, a pair of underwear or something, and, oh wait, no. Yeah, she has me put on a pair of underwear, and then the giant, I mean, these things were massive, the pads, and, they put that on me, and then they said, okay, well, we're gonna, you know, find you a room, and, you know, have someone come in and weigh him, and, you know, get his measurements and all that stuff, which he was 7 pounds and 10 ounces. He was 20 inches long, and his head circumference was 13.5 inches, and he was born at 1:43 p.m. on July the 11th, which was on his due date, which, like, never happens, and he's pooping on me, so I'm going to change him real quick, and then I'll be right back. So after, the nurse, sorry, I'm back, he's full now. After the nurse had taken his measurements, she, you know, swaddled him up and asked, Corey, you know, if he wanted to hold him for the first time. So he, held him, and it was just the most cutest thing I think I had ever seen in my whole entire life, that I just, you know, never thought he would finally be here, and I would get to see him hold him. It's making me emotional. You know, and my mom got to hold him too, and it just, you know, again, really? He just farted on me again. We just changed your diaper. Yeah, we just changed your diaper. It's like, on the other side. You're okay. But, you know, it was really awesome to see them, you know, hold him for the first time. And, you know, the nurse came in and said, you know, your room's ready. We're going to go ahead, you know, take you to your postpartum room. I'm like, okay. So, they said, you know, we're going to put you in the wheelchair, and then you can hold him, and, you know, we'll wheel you down to your room. I'm like, okay. So Mom's like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You know, I'm going to let you go to your room and rest, and, you know, let you guys get situated and let you guys spend some time with him. So I'm like, okay. So we get to the room, you know, they wheel me through, and she goes, do you like him? And I'm like, of course I like him. I love him. And he was just so perfect, you know, healthy, obviously a little tubby boy, but, I couldn't have been happier, you know, even though I did have to get an episiotomy, and it was really, really scary for me. You know, I would do it all over again just for him, and he's the most amazing thing that's, you know, ever happened to me. And, so they took me back to the room, they took me back to my room, my postpartum room, which was on the 5th floor, so we had to go 2 more floors up, and we get to my room, and they're like, okay, you know, give him to Corey, and we're gonna, you know, get you in bed and lay you down, and, you know, get a nurse to look at you. And, you know, they had all these nurses coming in, talking to me, you know, getting, the information, giving me some medication to, you know, help with the swelling and whatnot, So the first night, well, actually, we ordered food. The only thing I was really worried about was food after I had him. I was starving because I hadn't eaten since Friday at like noon almost. So I'm like, I really want some food, let's get some food. So we ordered some food, and they came and I believe they came and got him to go do some type of testing. I don't remember what exactly it was, but they came to get him for a few, and then they were like, just try to, get some rest, try to get something in your stomach. So we ate, and then, I was breastfeeding him, and we, were changing his diapers, and the woman actually came in and gave him his first bath. Well, not full-on bath, because, they just cut his umbilical cord and all that stuff. So she gave him his first bath, which was really cute. He was actually really, really good during it. He loved when she was washing his head, brushing his hair and stuff, and which was really cute. He did so well. It was actually very, very surprising. And the first night, we had him sent down to the nursery, and they would bring him back, whenever it was time for him to eat or whatever, and I would breastfeed him and, hang out with him for a little bit, which usually he only came back maybe once or twice during the night, which was really nice, but I still, had trouble sleeping, just because, I just had him and I wanted him in my arms. And so they brought him back the next morning. They did his 24-hour screening. I started having people come and visit. Like my dad came to visit, and that was really, really nice. I know, like I said, I'll put pictures towards the end of this video. And the second day, I got up for the first time to use the restroom on my own, and that was just a terrible experience. And that's when they told me, I had got a hemorrhoid, and hemorrhoids are no fun at all. I really hope that no one ever gets them, because they are very, very painful. Just not a fun experience. So everyone was coming to visit. He was doing really, really good with everybody. Of course, he was sleeping through everything. So he did wake up a few times, when I was feeding him. But yeah, people were coming to visit, throughout the day. And the second day actually went really, really good. I had to have a lot of help, getting out of my bed to go to the restroom. I took a shower finally because I was just so sweaty and I felt really gross. So I'm like, am I allowed to take a shower? They're like, yeah, of course, you can take a shower. So I took my shower, and, I laid back down. And, my hospital stay went very, very well, the nurses were really awesome. They were really, really nice, helping me out, giving me medication, trying to, see what would make me most comfortable. The second day, during the nighttime, we did have him circumcised, so they said he did amazing with that too. So I'm like jumping all over the place. I forgot to mention that I was only in labor for 18 hours, I believe, contractions all the way up to delivering him. And I did push for an hour and a half, which it felt like it was just like 25 minutes, to be completely honest. We got ready to go home on the third day that I was staying there. And the car ride home, I sat with him in the back, and it was just like the cutest thing, seeing him in this giant car seat and him being like this tiny compared to it. And every time, we'd hit a bump or whatever, his little cheeks would just vibrate, which I just thought it was the funniest and cutest thing. And it was like typhooning, not literally typhooning, but, it was raining really bad when we left. So, we got our first scary drive with him in the car over with. But we got home, and, my dad was really, really excited to see him home, and we kind of surprised him coming home. We didn't let him know that we were coming home. And we got Todd, my dog, to meet him, which they instantly connected, I think. I mean, he's so protective over him. He, has to have his eyes on him at all times. He has to be near him. If he's not near him, he, you can tell he's a bit angry about that, our dog. And, our first night here went amazing. He was waking up every 3 hours. I would feed on one side, change his diaper, and then feed on the other side, and then lay him back down, and then we'd both lay back down, and try to get some rest. And then the second night that we were at home, Corey went back to work part-time. And I will say, it went pretty good, just for me and him for the few hours that, he was gone. I was actually really surprised at how well we did by ourselves. But yeah, everything's been going really good. He's healthy, which is really, amazing, and I'm doing good. I'm doing a lot better. Walking around is so much easier now. Going to the restroom is much easier now. Yeah, I'm sorry I jumped around a lot. I'm just trying to get, everything out. I probably should have wrote it down, just, keep myself from rambling on. But, yep, that's pretty much all I can really think of at the moment. So if you guys, do have any questions about anything, you guys are always always feel free to comment below or email me. I always put my email in the description box. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put some pictures in. Actually, I'll just do a slideshow in a different video of, some pictures and stuff from, the whole labor and delivery, at the hospital and whatnot. So yeah, thank you guys, for kind of going through a bit of my journey with him, being pregnant with him, and, going through the delivery and whatnot. Like I said, if you guys have any questions or, anything, email me or comment, and don't forget to subscribe.